Transportation is a pretty multifaceted priority for us. Clearly the streetcar is a major initiative, and the ability to tie together the assets that have grown in downtown, from Crown Center through the Arts District of the Crossroads, the Power and Light District, connecting us to the River Market and City Market, would be a major enhancement that would certainly promote transitory development in areas that we have opportunities for some really great infill development. In addition to the streetcar, the Kansas City Area Transit Authority is currently beginning phase 2 of its operations study, and they're really looking at how they operate the bus system inside the grid, in the grid of downtown, how we get people from neighborhoods into downtown. That system hasn't been updated in many years, certainly not since the advent of 19,000 people living downtown and growing. We have over 200 IT companies in the greater downtown and growing, 37 digital media companies, new people living, working, and utilizing downtown in a very different way. As you know, we've been changing our downtown really from a traditional office core that most downtowns have become after the suburban flight of the 70s into really a very contemporary mixed-use environment: culture, arts, work, entertainment. So a lot of different venues, a lot of different mixed uses. And the downtown's changing to accommodate that. You might see the new bike share program that's just been implemented in July. Very important to give people different ways to move around in the downtown. A new sensibility about pedestrian mobility, a lot of investment in streetscapes, sidewalks, connecting neighborhoods, removing barriers for people to get between different amenities and attractions within downtown. And I really think, and we of course can't forget the automobile. This is Kansas City, and there are a lot of people who come into the city who need to be able to get to work, get to their garages, and I want to make sure, and we want to make sure that once they're in downtown, that they have mobility options once they're here. Maybe they don't have to get that car out of the garage, but they can jump on the streetcar, or they can jump on a bus or a bicycle, or have a great walking experience. So I think those are all priorities, and you really have to look at transportation mobility as a system. The more integrated it is, the more options the user has, the more successful the downtown will be. Gosh, I just gave testimony on that yesterday to the P&Z committee, that very topic on downtown residential development. Look, there's a couple of different dynamics that are going on in residential development. One is we've used a lot of tools to, well, let me back up a second. The Kansas City and our region is blessed with great housing values. Cost for housing in the greater Kansas City area compared to national standards is pretty low, so people get a great deal, and that's a good thing. But it makes it more challenging for downtown residential development because those rents, lower rents, also translate into the downtown market, which is a niche market. We really want to carve off about 2% of the MSA, so our goal is 40,000 people downtown. Is a good sustainable number, but because of those great housing values, that makes rents low across the board. Same for our apartments, same for our condominiums in downtown. But the construction costs aren't any lower than national standards for construction costs. Steel costs what steel costs, labor is what labor is, window costs what a window costs. So the dynamic for downtown residential development, and we talk about, well, that's kind of the playing field that we're in, the arena that we're in with downtown residential development. The rents are impacted by the amount of amenities in the environment. So the more amenities we put in the environment, the more people will pay for rent because there's more value to them. And we see that trending in the right direction. But there remains a gap between construction costs and rents. And that gap has to be filled with economic development tools. That gap is produced by, one, a kind of a low rent structure across the region, two, higher land costs in downtown than in a suburban greenfield development. Land here is $35 a foot-ish. Greenfield would be around $4 a foot. The other big driver of cost for downtown residential development is structured parking. Again, in a greenfield development, you put up a surface lot that surrounds the project or goes through the project at a couple $1,000, $3,000, $4,000 a stall. Average parking stall for a structured parking, which is required in a downtown environment, is probably more like $15,000 to $20,000+ a stall. Those two drivers, land cost, those three drivers, land cost, structured parking, regional low, great housing values, which translate into low rents and low costs, means, in my opinion, that private-public partnerships to promote downtown residential development are probably with us for the foreseeable future. If it's a policy of the City of Kansas City to have high-density residential living in its downtown for all the right reasons, to attract great young professionals like yourself, to offer alternatives for families, to offer alternatives for businesses looking at locating in our city, you need to have, if that's a policy, then the city needs to work with the business community to make that a reality. A lot of the tools we've used to develop the residential to date, as you know, I'm sure, are tools like state and federal historic tax credits. For our workforce housing, low-income housing tax credits. Sometimes we've stacked them, a historic building and a low-income housing tax credit, to fill that gap, which really equates to, I think, around about $20,000 a unit, if we kind of put a cost on it. Due to our great success in revitalizing downtown and making a great residential community, we're running out of historic buildings to rehabilitate. Therefore, that tool is becoming of less value to us, and we need to replace it with other partnerships. What we're currently doing at the Downtown Council to promote, I'd like to have a goal of 1,000 new units a year for the next 5 years. And what we're doing to move that needle is really threefold. We've been working with the City Council, Jim Glover, 4th District at large, specifically on really creating a whole palette of what we call green taping techniques. Think of red tape, green tape is the opposite of red tape. So if it is a policy, and it needs to be, of the City of Kansas City to promote high-density residential development, so I think, by the way, which I think gives a great return on investment. When you think of the average median income of a downtown resident, $61,000, about $31,000 that's disposable income. Downtown residential development, downtown residents are a huge economic engine for our city. But if it's a policy of the City of Kansas City to promote that kind of residential alternative, which we think is great land use and sustainable development, all the it's green development, all the good things. Then they need to work with us on a package of financial and non-financial incentives to enable residential development to continue to go forward into new construction. And those are things like Philadelphia has a program whereby if you are the policy of the city, if you're doing a residential development downtown, you go to the front of the permit line. You go to the front of the inspection line. You get your plans reviewed sooner. Time to market is money, and certainty is important to the development community. And so if we could put those practices in place, that would make it easier for developers to develop new residential product. The second is another great example in Philadelphia, which we brought Paul Levy from Philadelphia, who's kind of works for their Center City program, for kind of a housing summit we did a year or so ago, and he shared these ideas with us. They have a 10-year abatement program, and that's citywide. So it's not just downtown, but citywide. I mean, think about other neighborhoods and other districts of our city that could use assistance with their housing inventory, etc. They do a citywide 10-year abatement program, which they analyze has accelerated the rate of development between 20 and 25% of putting units into the marketplace. And again, when you say, well, where's that tipping point? Because every council member asks me that. Where do the lines cross where we don't need to be a public-private partnership anymore? I don't know. Philadelphia, again, they're up to 60,000 people living in their downtown, and they just renewed their abatement program for another decade because it's being that successful and giving that kind of return to the city and repopulating, downtown. Again, think of that person living downtown. 60+ thousand income. What's the earnings tax impact of the city of doubling that population? What's the sales tax impact? So that's kind of what we're doing. We're also working, by the way, with our labor partners to see if we can address. There seems to be a prevailing understanding that using union labor makes the cost higher, kind of invalidates, or not invalidates, but neutralizes any kind of economic incentive. In our meetings with our labor colleagues, very open to looking at new ways to do business, very motivated to get people to work building residential, and so we're working that angle too, so we can hopefully get some successful partnerships there. But those three together, good labor relations, non-financial incentives, green taping, and then yes, some type of financial partnership that enables us to fill that gap between construction costs and rents is what we're working on. We actually, the Downtown Council is a business membership organization that has very diverse membership. We have large property owners, large businesses. We have small property owners, small business. 65% of our membership is small business. 60% of our membership's outside of the loop. So we have kind of a broader geographic range from, say, the Federal Reserve Bank to the river, 18th and Vine to State Line Road. We have nonprofits as members. We have civic organizations as members. So a pretty eclectic group of people. They work through a committee structure to implement specific strategies to promote economic development within the greater downtown area. So I kind of look at it as an urban management group, and we bring certain corporations and entities into existence for very specific functions, like the community improvement districts, which are 501c4 nonprofits, and our service organizations. They're doing clean and safe, clean and safe, clean and safe, greening of downtown now. So I mean, those are really important things. We help serve as the master developer for both the Central Library and the Todd Bolander Center, as well as the Downtown Community Service Center, a day shelter that didn't exist for homeless emergency services. And in those instances, we, again, served as a nonprofit developer in the community interest in projects that really needed an organizing element to bring in, let's say, in the library's case, or the ballet's case, the ballet board, which really knows dance and ballet, together with development team from the Downtown Council, which really knows how to rehabilitate historic properties, and created a new company that they could both serve together on a board to get the Todd Bolander Center project from a great idea to a fabulous building, which has absolutely changed the game for the ballet. They're getting now calls from talent who want to be in the Kansas City Ballet that they never got before. But if you think about, rehearsing in a faceless warehouse, great space, but kind of faceless space, and performing at the Lyric, lovely theater, or rehearsing the Todd Bolander Center for Dance and Creativity, which is a state-of-the-art facility, and performing at the Kaufman Center for the Performing Arts, that changes the playing field forever for the ballet. So we're very proud to play a part in that project. Right now we're working on the Boone Theater at 18th and Vine, which is a beautiful historic building we're trying to rehabilitate and find a new tenant for. So we get involved in projects that we think are catalyst projects that will help spark additional development. That's why the library was so important. The 1,500 people that live around the library, the developers saw the opportunity when that cultural facility went in place that, we might could build a neighborhood here. And the same is, I think you have to think in those terms when we look at the projects that we get engaged in. And that's why the Streetcar, as dynamic a conversation as it is, the opportunities to spark transit development along the line, unless we're different than every other city in America, are pretty well documented and pretty consistent, but they don't happen by just osmosis. You have to have a strategy. You have to align your incentives. You have to align your processes. You have to proactively engage the development community and make it happen. And that's kind of those are the kinds of things that we work on. Other important projects to us. Clearly, the University of Missouri-Kansas City's potential move of the Music Conservatory for the Conservatory of Music and Dance is in my mind, a game changer if we can successfully accomplish that. And again, this is an opportunity being provided by the reality of the existence of the Kauffman Center for the Performing Arts. Because that state-of-the-art, best in the world facility exists, there's an opportunity for UMKC to, and others, because it will be an arts campus, which hopefully will have multiple different kinds of tenants, all related to the arts, performing arts, perhaps graphic arts, and others, but predominantly the conservatory. By locating there, they'll take I think they'll have the same dynamic will happen to them that happened to the ballet. The number of students who will want to be at a music conservatory adjacent to the Kauffman Center will grow. Class A office is the first to vacate in downtown and the last to repopulate. It's your most expensive product. We have actually been on just numerical numbers, we've been treading water for the last several years, and for every company that is making an incentive-driven choice, for Kansas Alternative, we've had another company choose Casey Mo. And the ones I like to talk about are folks like DSI, Data Systems International, which is located in downtown. That's 130 new jobs. They're good pay. It's kind of new economy. It's information technologies. And if you think of these kind of mega trends going on in the world, and in business, that's one of them. And I get very excited. There's some companies who might have back office needs, and it doesn't matter where they're at, big call center or something like that. And they have lots of choices, and location isn't really high criteria for them. But if you're a DSI type company, being in the location at which they have this fantastic office space, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's very cool. To attract the associates they want in an immensely competitive industry where these people coming out of college who are in that industry have global choices, and you better be competitive in that. And an anonymous suburb isn't competitive in that. Young people make lifestyle choices. They'll decide where they want to live and then find a job. And they have those kind of alternatives. Today we have over 200 IT firms located in downtown. A lot of people don't. Well, many people know that. I think I told you earlier, 37 digital media companies. There actually are 40 in the state of Missouri, 37 in downtown KC. How about that? That's the future, and that's where we're focusing our energies. How do you grow businesses that a well-integrated downtown with all the amenities can provide for them to thrive in? And they need collegiality, collaboration. They love that the doors are still open, that they can sit at a coffee shop and bump into perhaps a competitor, but they start sharing ideas and a new idea gets sparked. That doesn't happen when you have to leave your suburban office, jump in a car, drive to Applebee's, and have a conversation with the waitress, right? It only happens when you can walk, ride a bike, jump on the tram, and visit, and be in that kind of an environment. So we're very focused on that. Other organizations which are focused on how do they get a hiatus with this absolutely insane and counterproductive border war that we have going on with Kansas. That's a man I really respect immensely. Calls it a race to the bottom. To pay a company $45 million to move a couple miles down the road, net new jobs zero, sign a 10-year lease, and in 5 years they'll be job in the market to move back. That is $45 million of public funds gone. It destabilizes the real estate market. Now, if you've left this space to subsidized rent in another community, what do I have to do if I'm a property owner on the other side? Drop my rents, and so we deflate the entire real estate market with that. That's a question that's kind of is going to take governor to governor, mayor to mayor, state to state to try to come up with hopefully like a ceasefire, in the kind of metroplex, that you can't use these tools in the metroplex. But obviously Governor Brownback's heading in a different direction than that. So I appreciate what the Mayor James has taken a proactive approach and said, hey, we want to protect our own, and punch us once, we'll punch you twice. And it's not a winning strategy, but in the long run, but it's what you have to do to get the other guy back to the negotiating table. So we work closely with the city. They're scrapping and fighting, and we're having as many wins as losses these days. So, so we're treading water on that. I think the key is to grow the businesses you have, grow the ones that this environment fits their business model. Google Fiber, big deal in business. I don't think we realize quite yet what that will do to attract new companies. We've been working with Mike Burke on the Launch KC program, which is soon to be announced, which is a series of initiatives to help those IT companies be successful, that we can market nationally to attract them. That's where we're looking at to grow business in KCMO. I think that's our niche in the next. Really, I think when you look at the arts and culture, the creative industries, the environment we've created, they're going to thrive in that. And I think the word's already out there. But those waves come, and you have to catch them because you don't time them; they come and they go by. So I know a lot of great people are working diligently that we make sure that we catch that wave, and I'm hoping we'll see a major upswing in businesses locating in downtown. So